Good evening, and welcome to the Speak Easy podcast. Yes, the Speak Easy podcast. Come and indulge in the Sunday evening wind down and wind down. Today, I'm excited. We have an amazing guest here in the studio with us. We have Miss Mogul herself, Chairidee Smith. And so I'm going to bring her into the studio and welcome Chairidee Smith. Miss Mogul, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so glad to be with you one more time. This is a
Yes,
really different conversation we're going to have tonight, so I'm eager to dive in.
yes. And I'm eager to hear because it's something that is so prevalent nowadays in our society and in relationships, in the workplace, and people need to hear about it. So the more resources we have and the more we talk about it, the better for everyone. So, Charity Smith, tell the listening audience who you are and what you are about.
So again, I'm happy to thank you again for having me. Again, glad to share this time and space with you, Charity Smith, Miss Mogul. I am a real estate developer. I am also blessed to be featured in over 30 countries as an economic development speaker, as a women's leadership speaker. I'll be launching a new app August 11th called the Mogul app. It's a global marketplace for people very much like you, leaders in their own sphere of influence who want to take their products and services into global markets. My app will do that. I'm also the author of The Roar of a Woman, and much of what we'll be talking about comes out of this book on tonight. So glad to be with you and excited to get into the topic tonight.
Yes, thank you. So I'm putting this in our comments, the roar of a woman. Now, before we get started, we can be fierce when we want to be. And we can also be pretty fierce when we don't want to be.
True.
Naturally. I know for myself, there are some days I just feel like being a beast. But for the most part, it just comes naturally. I don't want to be that way. It just happens that way. So tell us how you came up with the title of that book and what inspired you to write that book.
Oh wow! So that's a loaded question. I don't think we've ever had this conversation before. So I will skip a lot of the beginning parts of this, but the title of this book was actually birthed out of a very dark place. I had just gone through what I would call the Guinness Book of World Records worst divorce in the books. Um, Infidelity was, of course, a unfortunate part of the marriage, and my then spouse had cheated with a young woman and was sent away to go and deal with his deeds regarding that. You have to get the book on that. But it came when I was in a very dark place, Constance, and I was sitting on the floor of my living room, and I had just finished watching The Lion King of all things, The
Oh, wow.
Lion King, and I was just the shell of a woman. Broken marriage is busted, career is busted, business busted, mindset is busted, finances, but everything was just busted and bleeding. And so I'm sitting on the floor and I'm watching The Lion King, and there's a part in that movie. If you've seen the play on Broadway, and I've been very fortunate to see that, or you've seen the cartoon version, there is a place there where the father, who is Mufasa, talks to his son, Simba, says, "You are more than what you have become." Simba, by that time, if you know the story, had lost his identity, he had lost his father, and he thought that all hope was lost for him. But he had to have his father come back and remind him, look, you come from a line of greatness. You know who you are. You need to start now living who you were created to be. And so while I'm sitting on the floor trying to reevaluate my life and pick up all of the millions of broken pieces that life had dealt with, ooh, there's my life, that life had dealt with me, I let out literally a roar on the floor. And I mean, I hollered for everything. I hollered for my past, my present, my future, my children's future, my own identity. I just screamed. But when I finished and I got up off the floor, I remembered the call of God on my life. And the call of God was bigger than my divorce. Come on, somebody.
Yes.
The call of God was bigger than anything I lost in that divorce. The call of God was bigger than any toxic thing my ex-husband had said to me. The call of God was bigger. And so I remembered what God said about me and chose from that day to this one to live from that place, right?
Yes.
And so there, out of that story came the roar of a woman.
All right. All right. And you know what? I love that when you said the part in the movie said, you are more than what you have become.
You got to remember that.
We have to, and I tell my son that all the time. I have pictures of my paternal great grandparents,
Hmm.
and they were entrepreneurs before their time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even my great grandfather, or his mother, who was born during slavery, and
Absolutely.
she was a single parent, but she owned hundreds of acres of property,
Hmm.
had all kind of contracts with the government to grow and sell tobacco.
Come on now.
Carolina. That was something that women didn't do back then, but she was able to
Absolutely.
do it. And then she educated him, and then he had my grandmother and her sisters and educated them. I mean,
Absolutely.
just the term incorporation, he did that back then in those days.
Hmm.
He
Hmm.
had more than one location of stores that he operated. And so I tell my son, I sit there and say, I look at my dad and I look at myself and I tell my son, okay, you have not figured it out yet, but don't give up. Because one day
Absolutely.
the light will come on for you and you will figure it out. And you are more than what you become. Look at what you come from.
And see, you bring up an interesting point there, Constance. We
Yes,
have to remember, regardless of what life says and how life happens, many times we have to go back and remember our history,
yes,
right? Let's
yes,
have these conversations in the family where we share where we come from and our stories and our oral traditions and what makes us powerful, what
yes,
makes us strong. And that's the stuff that inoculates us against what society says is supposed to kill us. You didn't
exactly,
hear me. It
exactly.
inoculates us
You
against
know,
that stuff.
I call that invalid validation.
Come on.
Okay. No one can validate you.
Hmm.
You validate yourself. The Lord above validates you, and He gives you the authority to validate yourself. Forget what somebody else says.
And
Okay?
we have to remember again, like, and this is something I said in a presentation earlier. The only thing that's infinite is God above and His creativity in us. But
Yes.
time is not infinite. We do not have an infinite amount of time. So, regardless of what may have happened to you, and I'm going to go to some deep places, it may have been rape, may have been molestation, you may have been passed over for a promotion. You may have come from a toxic or abused background. You may have been left as a child or, adopted. There may have been just a plethora of toxic, negative scenarios that have happened in life. Many of them we do not have the ownership of starting. We just have the unfortunate situation of having to live through. But this is what you've got to remember. That happened, absolutely, but that's one place in your life. What's going to happen with the rest of it?
Yes.
Because you do not have infinite time. It's unfortunate that life happened. It's unfortunate that things were bad. And trust me, I understand many of those places that I just named. I get it. But you know what keeps me going, Constance? I remember that I do not have all of my life to fulfill my life. I've got today, I've got now. So you got to make it work and you got to make it count.
Exactly. And that's why I do what I do now. And I
I
do
believe you.
so much. And I push myself because I don't know how much time I have. So I got to make the best of it to do what it is that I've been mandated to do. And
You
that's
got
to
to make an impact.
somebody out of that dark place and out of the ashes of their past to let them know that, hey, they are one of God's best and they can be the best and they are the best.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Love that.
You mentioned something when you were talking there, toxic relationships.
Yes.
Can you please go there?
So, from the aspect of the marriage, is that what you want? Is that what we want to talk about? So, and see, toxicity is one of those terms that we have to really spend some time and dig into. Okay, toxicity is not just an innate characteristic. Many times people don't intend to be that kind of person in life. What typically happens, Constance, is that a series of events happen, much like that happened in my life, and the unfortunate situations that may have happened in some of our viewers' lives, and that happened in my former husband's life. And that series of toxic or unfortunate series of events happens, and when there's no remedy and when there's no healing, that toxicity does not just stay there. Typically, it takes root very deeply in our psyche and in our subconscious, and it becomes a part of who we are, unfortunately. That can lead to something that's called narcissism. Now, if you've heard me talk about this topic anywhere else before, I talk a lot about narcissism, not really knowing at the time that that's what I was dealing with my former spouse. What is narcissism? It's typically defined as a personality disorder. It's also, and by the way, I'm not a clinical psychologist, don't pretend to be one. I'm just sharing my life experiences and the research that I've done, right? And so it's a personality disorder that many people operate in on a daily basis, Constance, and many times they don't know how narcissistic or toxic they are. Here are a couple of characteristics. People who operate in high levels of manipulation,
Mm.
people who operate in high levels of controlling behavior, people who operate in high levels of anger or jealousy, people who use their words to injure someone that they love or care about, people who use their fists or other objects to hurt people that they love or care about. That's various manifestations of people who are wrestling with toxic disorders in the mind or in the heart and in narcissism. Well, when you come from a broken background, typically you get attracted to or you attract somebody else with the same brokenness. Why? People say opposites attract. That's not always true. Many times, like people attract. So here is where we need to do some discovery. For all of you who say, I keep dating the same kind of person over and over and over again, or I continue to befriend people who betray me, okay? Or I keep getting into relationships, professional relationships with business partners, and they do not respect my leadership. Somewhere in there, you have to stop and now start to take inventory. What is it about me that continues to attract this kind of person in my life? I find that a lot of times people who wrestle with toxic relationships, Constance, and I'm gonna flip the script out there and tick off some people, but look, I'm grown, I'm okay with it.
Okay, come on.
Send it to me, don't give it to Constance, give it to me. But many times people who wrestle with constant toxic relationships have not fully owned their part in that toxicity. What is it that continues to invite that kind of thing in your life? Maya Angelou said something, and it is a quote that I now hold very dearly. She said, when people show you who they are,
Yes.
believe them.
Yes.
Don't try to change them. Don't try to rationalize away their behavior. Don't try to excuse it or define it. Look at it for what it is. Case in point, if somebody you're dating has issues with transparency in the dating process, that will very likely transfer into a committed or a marriage relationship. If someone has issues with you, jealousy, let's just say you're a high performance woman. I'm just going to throw this scenario out there. And you're dating who you believe to be a high performance man, but you begin to share your vision and your dreams with your potential husband or mate. And there becomes a conflict and a power struggle, right? In the conversation. That's time now to stop and do some discovery work in that. Did you not convey your dream or your vision or whatever it is properly? Or is this person not understanding who you are at your core and potentially not a good mate for you? Just because both of you are high performance people don't mean that you would make great marriage partners, right? So you've got to have these kinds of conversations up front. Another thing, let's talk about children and the impact of children on a relationship or toxicity. And I talk about this in the book as well. When people come from toxic or narcissistic relationships and children are a factor there, when one or both of you begin to weaponize the children to hurt the other in the relationship, that's a real clear indication you are dealing with somebody who is dying at the core. You don't typically find somebody who says that they love their children, weaponize their children just to hurt somebody else. But
Mm.
it happens. That's a real clear indication, again, that you're dealing with somebody who is toxic and sick at their core. So, we can go on and on and on what toxicity is in various stages of relationship. But here is what you need to think about when you think about toxicity, regardless of the kind of relationship. Does this kind of love hurt? If there's something in you that hurts after being in this kind of love with a person, I'm going to challenge you to redefine now and rediscover what love really is. Love is not supposed to hurt. Does the relationship leave you feeling belittled or demeaned or devalued? Chances are you need to roll it back and do some discovery. If the
Wow.
relationship leaves you having to constantly explain yourself, that's something that narcissists are notorious for. They have you constantly trying to explain, and what typically the empath, who is the person in the relationship with the narcissist, does not understand is that that constant pull to explain yourself and your intention is really a manipulative factor that the narcissist uses to maintain control and leverage in the relationship.
Mm.
Now, when you're in a romantic relationship, it's not about leverage against your beloved. It's not about leverage. It's supposed to be about what? Collaboration,
Yes.
cooperation,
Yes.
mutual affection, mutual tandem, synergy. We're going in the right direction together. But when you find yourself trying to calculate, now how can I get back? How can I leverage? Now he's going to say this or she's going to say that. And when they do that, then I'm going to say this. Look, if you got to spend that kind of time in that kind of space in your relationship, I'm going to invite you to take an exit. You need an exit strategy. That's typically what I would call the real kind of litmus test of a toxic relationship.
Yes. Yes. And you're right. That explaining yourself. Now, see, that's something I can't. I just can't do. I just can't. And so,
It's a
therefore,
form of manipulation and control. Because
mhm,
here's the thing, when you constantly explaining yourself, especially when you have a good heart and good intention, you're constantly then second guessing yourself
yes.
to see if is what they're saying about me true. Am
Hmm.
I just arrogant? Am I not considering this person's feelings? Am I really this person? Why else would they treat me this way if I'm not this person? So many times, people with a good heart will go into that place of constantly explaining themselves and second guessing themselves, trying to make sure that they're not hurting anybody unintentionally. But what they don't fully realize until it's too late is that this was a manipulation tactic.
Oh, wow.
This was a leverage tactic. Love had nothing to do with it. Communication had nothing to do with it. Trying to achieve understanding has nothing to do with it. It's a form of manipulation and control. And when you study narcissism, it's called circulation and
Mhm.
triangulation. And if you think about a person who's, let's just say, you know how the old cowboys used to have that rope where they would do it like this?
The lasso. Yes.
Lasso, right. And
Yes.
so if you stay in that lasso, if the lasso gets caught on you while you're still doing this, eventually you get hung in that rope, right?
Hmm.
And you're tight and you can't move. That is the outcome. That's the objective of the narcissist in communication, is to really kind of entrap the other person so that their will, their power, their self-expression is exactly as it says, strangulated. So, you know, We have to be careful that we are not so desperate to be in a relationship that we sell our soul to be with somebody. Now, for all of you who are taking notes, I hope you write that down. Don't be so thirsty or so desperate for a relationship that you sell your soul to the devil to be in one. I think we lost your volume, Miss Constance.
I'm back. I'm sorry. I was
There
having
you go.
a conversation by myself. But anyway,
That's all right. Come
I,
on.
you know, am at a point now in my life, it's me. This is it. What you see is what you get. You can take it or leave it. It's okay. But I know what I'm gonna put up with. I
Hmm.
know what I'm not gonna put up with. And I cannot be prey to the manipulation. I mean, I just can't.
But
I
see,
was
that
an only
comes with,
child. I was an only child, so I'm the master manipulator. You can't know. Mm-mm. So I recognize the signs right off.
yes,
So no, I can't. And so that's what we all have to do. We have to learn our worth,
yes.
and it's okay to be by yourself. Learn to love yourself. Because I enjoy my company. I'm here in this house by myself this evening and just as happy as I can be.
But see, you're a self actualized woman.
Yes.
But see, that is the difference. When we become fully self actualized, when we understand in your words, your worth, when you know now you have clear definition about life, you have very clear boundaries about what you will and what you will not accept because of that. Go back to that W word, because of your worth. You can now find peace and contentment and serenity when you are alone. Because, see, a lot of times, particularly women, we've been sold this bill of goods that being alone means you have to be lonely, or
No.
being alone means that there's something deficient or that you're lacking something by being alone. You know what I tell people, Miss Constance? If you look at what one is, when you study what the number one is, one of the definitions of one is wholeness.
Yes. Yes. Come on
That
now.
means you're not broken. Nothing is lacking. Nothing, you can add to one all
Come
day long.
come on.
And whatever you add is just extra. But one can stand alone because it's whole. And see, what we need to do now is start to reprogram ourselves to wholeness instead of, I've got to have a relationship, or I'm almost 30, I'm almost 40, I'm almost 50, in my case. Whatever it is, are you whole though? Are
Yes.
you whole? And so when we master wholeness, we then position ourselves to master the dynamics and the ecosystem of relationships, because one whole person is meeting another whole person, and all they can create from there is wholeness. But if you got pieces in your life and you all fragmented and you looking for me to fill in your pieces, we don't have one.
Mm.
We do not have wholeness here. So you cannot, in my mind, build a safe, healthy, lasting, sustainable relationship until you first master wholeness, right? And so that's what we have to pursue. And then it will dispel toxic people. Because when you hold, Miss Constance, and I know you can testify to this, you do not typically attract toxic people.
No. No.
Toxic people are not attracted to whole people. Why? There's nothing to feed off of. Toxic people are, and I'm gonna say this, and this is, again, it's probably gonna tick off somebody, but to me, toxic people are kind of like mold. They
Mm.
just get something and they just latch on to people and they just grow and they just contaminate everything that they attach themselves to. That's
Parasitic.
what toxicity is, just like mold. It can
Mm-hmm.
attach itself to something living and beautiful, but as soon as it gets there, it changes the dynamic and it becomes toxic.
Wow.
So, whole people, we tend to be inoculated from that stuff. It's like I can see it coming a mile away now, and I will dispel it in a minute. Why? My wholeness is not attracted to your brokenness and your toxicity.
Exactly. When I was younger, I'm like, oh well, I can't go out by myself.
Oh, not true.
Travel by myself. And one day, I think I was like 30, and I wanted to go on a cruise. And all of my friends, I don't have any money. I can't. I said, you know what? I'm going by myself. You're an only child. You used to playing by yourself, so go. And so my parents like, you can't go on that cruise ship by yourself. And I says, why not? I won't be the only one there. There will be other people there. And guess what? I went and had a blast. I met people there. Saw a couple I'm still friends with. And that was over 30 years ago. It's okay. I go to the movies by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I take myself out to dinner if I want to go. And then I learned early on in the game when I was still going out, if I go out by myself versus going out with my friends or with someone, go by yourself. Hang by the bar. That's where the men are. And man, I used to have a blast. I learned that, and man, I had a blast. I would go by myself every weekend and have a ball.
I hear you.
Right. Number one. And I put that in the comment. The number one means wholeness.
Yes, that's
Thank you
really
for
what it
bringing it
means.
up. Thank you.
That's exactly what it means. It is not deficient in anything. One is wholeness.
Yes.
So when we start to now adopt a life from that perspective, I stand alone, but I stand whole. Then you open yourself up to attract into your life more whole people because you're not missing anything. There's nothing in my life that's missing. So you coming into my life is extra.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
added benefit. But
Exactly.
there is a life, whether you stay, whether you go, there's a beautiful life already here.
Because
And
that sun
so
is gonna rise
live from that
tomorrow
place.
morning. That sun is gonna rise tomorrow morning, regardless
I
of what.
promise you. I promise you it will.
So hey, it's okay. It's all well here.
Yes, ma'am.
It's all well here. As I call where I live the court. It's okay at the court.
Hmm.
It's okay. We hold court every day, just to be by myself, me and the good Lord. And it's okay. It's okay. So
And it's better than okay. It's what you make it. Yes, ma'am.
yeah, exactly. So what advice do you have for someone who may be involved in a toxic relationship with a narcissist? What
Mm.
advice do you have for them? Do you have any community resources they can reach out to and explore to help them? What do you advise?
So, plug. I'm going to really encourage you to get this book because I share in here much of what I did not know about narcissism. The first thing is that you need to become acutely aware of the personality you're dealing with. Okay? Study this person and then study what narcissism is. And I would say for the empath, that's usually the person that's in a relationship with a narcissist, get support, get help, because so much of what the narcissist does is create this alternate reality, right? And it will make you kind of go stir crazy, as in, is this really happening? Is this real? Is this person really doing this to me? Is this, and sometimes that second guessing can make you unstable. And when you get around people and just kind of talk about your experiences, many times you can talk yourself back into sanity and you'll be like, yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, that did happen. Yeah, I need to put a stop to that. But sometimes you need that support in order to get to that place. So I would say, one, talk about your experiences. Find people who have similar experiences. There are lots of organizations and Facebook groups. I even have one called The Roar of a Woman where we talk about these various experiences. And I will tell you, Constance, women around the country talk to me about their experiences with manipulation and the code switching. We talk about code switching in corporate, but sometimes in a relationship, the person that they're in love with will code switch on them and have them saying one thing, but you're experiencing another. And then when you bring it to the person's attention, they try to play like you the one that's crazy, all for manipulation and control. So get around people who, one, understand your experience. Until you have been in a relationship with a narcissist, many people do not understand that kind of personality. I would even say, if you need to, talk to a counselor, talk to a mental health specialist or coach, plug to the African American community. Many times we downplay the necessity of counseling because it has not been traditionally a place of strength for us. And so we'll just kind of shun the idea of counseling. But I cannot tell you how much clarity can happen when you just sit down and talk to somebody that's sane about your experience and share what you're going through, and they help shed light on it, and it then brings you to a place of clarity where you can make some decisions about what you want to do with this relationship moving forward. So once you're clear, you can decide, yes, I want to stay in this, or no, this is not for me, I'm out. And make a very clear, informed decision about what you want to do with the rest of your life. So in closing, I would say read on the topic, get into some support groups. Sometimes just talking it out helps. And then if you need to, go get counseling. But I'm going to end it with this too. Sometimes a good old time on your knees in prayer. God, I need clarity.
Come on.
Show me what this is. And I promise you, when you have that kind of real conversation with God, God, show me what this is. Be open to what you see and acknowledge what you see, and then move from there.
All right. All right. And you're right. And, I want to say to some people out there, I'm not criticizing the church. I'm not criticizing ministers and pastors. So I
Come
want to
on.
put that disclaimer out there.
Sure.
Sometimes that may not be your best option for help.
I
'Cause-
agree because they're not always trained in the nuances.
Exactly.
Sometimes this is really a psychological issue, and there is a spiritual component where pastors and faith leaders who are spirit filled can help with that. But y'all, sometimes we need to go talk to some clinical psychologists who understand psychosis, who understand psychopathic behavior, who understand narcissistic behavior, and can walk you through what this is and who this is you're dealing with. And to
Yes.
your point, it's true, Miss Constance. The church is not always the best place for a comprehensive conversation on this kind of topic. And I even talk about that in the book. Sometimes you find narcissists in the church and they in the pulpit too. I dealt with them too. It's in the book. So yes, to your point,
Yes.
absolutely.
And Christianity and the counseling can exist together.
They work well together.
Especially the black church. Oh no, we don't do that. We got Jesus and we got prayer and we got discipline. Okay, yes, we do. But we need some extra help. And God gave us good sense, so we need to use it.
There
So
you go.
out find some experts that know how to deal with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
It's
be okay
have to be
and be
okay.
transparent. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you. I'm sorry. There was a delay.
Okay. It's okay not to be okay. Okay.
Absolutely.
Just don't stay there. Just don't
Absolutely.
stay there.
I couldn't
No,
have said it any better.
come on. Yes, indeed. So, Charity, tell the listening audience what you have coming up. I know you've got this big global event coming up, of which yours truly is a part of, and I can't wait. I cannot wait.
It's going to be fantastic. And I cannot wait to host you either. We are, and thank you for the opportunity to share this. I am hosting the Roar Global Summit.
Yes.
Roar Global is a leadership and an economic development summit. It's 2 days, it's free of charge, but don't let the free scare you into thinking, oh, it's just run of the mill. We have world class speakers like Miss Constance Wood, like the former president of Ghana's son, Dr. Edward Kufuro, who will be there. We have the king of Somania, Ghana, who His Excellency will be there sharing his economic development campaign for Ghana. We are streaming this conference in Ghana, Botswana, UK, USA, and in Latin America, meaning Mexico and Spain. Dynamic speakers like you, Ms. Constance, will be there on day one, sharing leadership strategies, business strategies, and economic strategies to finally close the economic achievement gap for women. The theme of the summit is 10x your business through strategic collaborations and build global bridges. So that's day one. Day two, it's all about economic development globally. How do we take businesses and brands and products from the diaspora, the African diaspora, and partner it now with the free trade initiative on the continent of Africa to now leverage our economic power globally. That's one of the reasons why I'm launching my app on the August 11th and 12th at the summit, because it will again be a global marketplace for leaders who are listening to this StreamYard right now, to this broadcast, to now partner with that app and launch your business into those four continents
Yes.
instantly with the app. Go to roarglobal.org. You will see Miss Constance's beautiful picture there, along with all of our other speakers. Register, it's for free. You'll get a digital download worth $297 worth of resources from all of our speakers who want to make sure that when you finish with this summit, you have the tools necessary to take your businesses into quantum leaps of success. So
Okay.
thank you again for allowing me to share that.
I have just posted that in the comments. And of course, I have it on my Facebook page, those of you who follow me every day, and on
Yes, thank
LinkedIn.
you.
So, hey, this is going to be a dynamic event. I've already gone in to put in for PTO those 2 days because I want to watch the whole thing. I don't
Awesome.
want to miss a thing,
Awesome. Thank you.
a thing. So, Charity,
Yes, ma'am.
anything, any parting words you have for the listening audience before we end today?
Know your worth. I go back to a quote you gave at the top of the show.
Yes.
Know your worth. No relationship is worth you losing you. Know your worth and
Yes.
live from there.
All right. Thank you so much, Charity. Thank you so much, Miss Mogul herself, Charity Smith, who has come to share with us once again here at the Speak Easy podcast. I thank you all for tuning in this evening and joining us and indulging and absorbing this information. I hope you took good notes. I hope you did. And so until next week, may God bless you and take care.